Hi guys, welcome back, and this time around I'm bringing you the ZIIGAAT LUNA. This is the first IM from ZIIGAAT, being a complete BA unit, and as has been the case with the other products from ZIIGAAT that I have tested, they've set a standard, they've set a base for what to expect in terms of build quality and sound, and obviously I was expecting good things from the Luna, and I was not disappointed. This Luna in particular, obviously I got it from LINSOUL. It's priced at $379, so a little, probably one of the most expensive IMs that they have had up to now. And they I think took a lot of cues of other IMs that have been made over the years, being all BAs, and some of those IMs, I've got some of them. Yeah, I've got here the Duno SA6 Mark II, I've got here the PENON Turbo, I've got here the AudioSense DTE600. The one IM that I would have liked to have had here, because of the unquestionable similarity between the two of them, is the 7th Acoustics Supernova. I think I definitely have to get my hands on one. I've been wanting to get one, but the waiting period has kind of always deterred me from doing so, although I did have a unit that was loaned to me last year, and I had it for like 3 or 4 months, and I was able to get really acquainted with the Supernova. But anyway, on to the Luna, which is what you want to know. ZIIGAAT has used a mix of Sonion and Knowles BAs. They used the Sonion 39AY BA for the bass, which is slightly different from the D1 and D2, the 38D1 and 38D2, which is sometimes used for bass function, and that BA definitely has a lot of bass. I mean, that's what's been used here in the Mark II from Duno, and I also believe that the PENON, the Turbo, uses the same BAs. And with regards to the base quantity that those BAs can generate, it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. The ones used here, they come across more as being, for lack of a better way of putting it, but being more inclined for quality audiophile style of bass than necessarily monstrous amounts of bass quantity. Okay, they've got some Knowles in being used in the mid-range frequency, and also got some Knowles being used in the high frequency, and they've all put it all together in a nice shell. It's got a nice quality to it. It's a light shell, but it fits perfectly, no issues there. Nice faceplate design, as you guys can see. Good selection of tips. The cable is also decent enough cable. I would have liked maybe something a little bit more visually impactful. It's got exchangeable nozzles, as you can exchangeable terminations, as you can see. Nice selection of tips. The case is also a nice case from a better case from ZIIGAAT. I don't dislike the other case that they use, which is more squarish, but it's a little bit thinner, and so it makes things fit tighter inside there. But anyway, in terms of its accessories, and considering the $379 price point, the boxes have been ticked, so it doesn't offend me, or I don't think it's in any way lacking. If anything, if I have to really nitpick, I think the cable is the one that I would have liked a slightly nicer cable, just something a little bit more visually, let's say, candy. In terms of its performance, it performed fine. I swapped a few cables around on the Luna, and I really didn't notice any difference. The same goes for the tips. I used my Divinus Velvet, I used my KB ears, and ended up sticking with the stock tips because they worked perfectly. There was absolutely no need to change the tips. So in that department, you can be assured that tips will probably satisfy most people. Anyway, going on to the sound, which is what you want to know. What is the sound here of the Luna? They've, in my opinion, aimed for a mid-focused sound. The mids are definitely the star of the show, and then having this bass which offers a decent enough amount of bass quantity. I mean, there's a bass shelf of roughly, we're talking about a bass shelf of roughly 8 dB, so it's a decent enough bass shelf. It's got enough meat, let's put it to it. But the focus of the bass here on the Luna has been more on quality and how it integrates itself with the mids, and that's how it affects vocals, and how it integrates then itself with the highs, and how it affects then things as cymbals and clarity of music up top. Is it muffled or anything of the sort? And the truth is that they've done a fantastic job, honestly. The moment I heard the Luna, this is as sure as daylight. The first IM that jumped to mind was the Supernova. I mean, I didn't even think twice about it. Why? Because with regards to the SA6 and the PENON, the way that they've used not only the 38 D1X BA for the bass, but the fact that I've also have these with the bass switch on, although the difference between the bass switch on and off is not that dramatic on the SA6, but here on the turbo it does have a lot of switches of for the bass, and I have them all off except for the ones that slightly give a little bit more emphasis on the high end. But the way that I have them set up, it was very easy to identify the difference between the Luna and those two. And the audio sense, it was also very easy to identify because the audio sense has got a very much a sub-bass focused bass performance, and then very much thin and somewhat lacking in the mid bass and early and the lower mid, let's put it that way. Obviously that's using the impedance adapter, which is something that I definitely recommend, because the difference between listening to the DTE 600 with and without the impedance adapter is monumental. But anyway, all of this to say what? That yes, it immediately reminded me of the Supernova. I unfortunately don't have the Supernova with me. I would have loved to have had it so that I would have made it more definite and more solid comparison. But what I can say wholeheartedly is that this is a half-priced Supernova. Okay, and what I'm saying by that is I'm saying that if what you are looking for, if your aim is to find an all BA IEM, that resolution, detail is what you are looking for. You want something which is clean, clear, detailed, and has then the right amount of bass and treble to satisfy and to give that mid frequency range all the glory that it is able of generating, then this is your pick. That's the reality. And then, you know, obviously for myself personally, it questions, is it really worthwhile going to spend $600+ or almost $700 on the Supernova, since I now have something which is basically the same thing? To be sensible, no, it doesn't make sense. But if I do end up getting the Supernova, it will just be obviously for comparison purposes. But the reality is that this will give, in my opinion, and I say it with 99% conviction, this will give you 98% of the sound of the Supernova. Okay? And I just don't give that extra 2% because I don't have it with me. Bass, as I said, is really, really good. It's clean, it's clear, it's detailed, never overpowering. If anything, it might be a little bit lacking, especially when you start listening to certain genres which are a little bit more bass prominent, or then you are coming from a DD based IEM or an IEM that uses a DD for the bass department. If you are used to that, then you will definitely find this perhaps a little bit thin and lacking a little bit more of that weight, where then something like the PENON Turbo or the SA6 will definitely be more satisfactory, because that's the one department where they have more heft, more presence, and on occasions you might even think that there's a small DD inside of these IEMs as opposed to an actual BA. In terms of mids, I've said it all. It's simply phenomenal mid-range presentation. Those of you that have been following me for a while and know that my preferences, know that I have the SA6 in very high praise, and then the other IEM that I had in very high praise before this, an all BA IEM, was our Audio Neon Pro, and also the other one. Well, the Neon Pro was the main one. Let's be honest. That was the main one that really made me become aware of what an all BA IEM was capable of doing. And when the SA6 came out, I was really impressed, because it was giving me everything that I was having in the Neon Pro with yet a little extra degree of polish, which I on occasions wasn't finding in the Neon Pro. And by no means am I degrading or saying that the Neon Pro isn't good or anything of the sort. No, the Neon Pro is a phenomenal IM. It was a phenomenal IM. I believe it's been discontinued, but the SA6 just was able to give me that extra that I wasn't getting in the Neon Pro. It just made things a little bit more balanced for me. It just sounded more correct for me, and for me to be now saying that this is capable of keeping up with the SA6 in terms of the mid-range presentation and perhaps even surpass it at points is definitely, it's a strong argument that I'm giving for the Luna. Obviously, my personal preference is one thing. What I believe will be the preference of the majority of people is another. And I think the majority of people, especially those which are technically more inclined, those of you that like detail, those of you that are more vocal focused in your listening experience, you will definitely appreciate the Luna more than you will the SA6, because the SA6 just has that more heftier tonality, that the heftier bass presence, which can for some people deter from the whole experience and make it perhaps even think that it sounds muddy or anything of the sort, although in my opinion it doesn't. There's nothing, have never for one moment thought that this was in any way lacking in that department. The PENON Turbo, again, in terms of bass performance, absolutely phenomenal. And the mids and treble were done or were tuned in a way that it was able to keep up with the bass that this IM is capable, especially with the turbo switch. You get a crazy amount of gain being given to the BAs, and they handle it, and okay, fair enough, you lose some clarity, you lose some of that speed that is associated with BAs when it comes to bass, but it's I think it's the closest that I've seen at a relatively accessible price that you will find an IM that can be said to have thunderous bass. And then the DTE 600 with the impedance adapter becomes an IM that, yes, it's very clean up top, and yes, it's got good sub bass, but in between it's lacking somehow, so it's very much V-shaped. Here, no, it's a kind of a neutral-ish type of sound, which has good, very well executed bass and very nicely executed treble. Everything is very balanced. Maybe some of you that have better hearing capabilities than me might find it perhaps a little bit overly bright or something of the sort. I honestly, with the music that I listen to, I cannot complain. That was not the perception I was getting. So just to make a quick recap in terms of bass, mids, and treble, and how those parts of the spectrum are reproduced. Top marks for the Luna. Top marks. It definitely keeps up with any one of these IMs and even surpasses it. It's a significantly better IM than the DTE 600, the DT 600. And if you guys have followed me for a while, you know that I have this as a very good all-BA IM, and when I first listened to it, I really thought it was the XINHS. As for the SA6 and the PENON, the SA6, I think it's still one of the best all-BA IMs that you can get, period, the Mark II version. And the PENON Turbo, if what you are wanting is a powerful presentation, a presentation that will leave you very surprised that you are listening to an all-BA IM, definitely the Turbo is ticking the right boxes. I mean, fair enough, the build quality is nice and so on, but I think the ZIIGAAT, maybe because it's darker shell, I don't know, just the ZIIGAAT just looks a little bit more premium slightly than the Turbo. Perhaps if PENON was to offer this in a different color, that feeling would be eliminated. But anyway, the reality is this: we're talking $579 for the Duno, we're talking $549 for the PENON Turbo, we're talking $249 here for the AudioSense. As I mentioned, the Supernova is $600+, and we're talking $379 here for the Luna. When we consider the price that it's offered for, it is a solid option. there's honestly the only thing that it's slightly behind the the Duno and the PENON is in terms of the bass presence that it has. That's the only area where it is just slightly behind. Otherwise, in terms of clarity of mids and detail and resolution, it's up there with these two, and that's saying a lot for the Luna. That's really praising the Luna. You know, it's putting it up there. Technically, you know, detailed retrieval, top marks, soundstage, imaging, resolution, all of those are top marks. The one technicality that perhaps is just a little bit less than ideal is the tone and tonality, which is good, mind you, it is good. I'm not in any way saying that it isn't good, but because of that slightly thinner presentation in the bass, certain things just sound a little bit off. It's not that they sound bad or wrong, they just sound off. The same way as, for example, in previous reviews with regards to the Martillo, the tone tonality was affected by the fact that the bass is really, really present, and it just thickened up things unnecessarily. Here we have the opposite. It's overly thin at times, okay, but that's a nitpick, really nothing that can be said. Overall, what I can say about the ZIIGAAT LUNA is, if you want a IEM, an all BA IEM, which is a seriously well-tuned IEM and plays and is capable with trading blows with IEMs at least twice the price, you have found it. It's as simple as that. If you are able to obviously listen to it, I would definitely say go for it, listen to it. And again, you know, the Luna, just to finalize here before I show you the graphs, the Luna is one of those IEMs of this newer wave of IEMs that is fulfilling that characteristic, which is it's an IEM below the $500 price point, which is trading blows with IEMs way more expensive. I mean, no issues. I'm gonna I did a little bit of comparison, but I'm not gonna go too far. But if I was to compare this, for example, with something like the Anole VX, and again, I don't have it with me, so I can't go far into that comparison, but I did compare it, for example, with the Butastur Night Oblivion. Those are IEMs. The Butastur twice the price, but the Anole VX is $2,000+. And from memory, I wasn't getting any more amount of detail or any more amount of spaciousness or you know, sound stage or anything that I'm getting from this. I wasn't. So you know, this is definitely an IEM that 90% of the time will keep up with IEMs which are significantly way more expensive, and that, you know, a couple of years ago were considered top of the line IEMs and so on and so forth. Like I just said, that's high praise here for the Luna. That's really high praise here for the Luna, and a job well done too for ZIIGAAT. Anyway, let me just quickly show you the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay guys, so let's talk about the graphs now for the ZIIGAAT LUNA. Anyway, this is the graph of the ZIIGAAT LUNA. That's left and right channel. As you can see, that's almost flawless channel balance in my opinion. Really nothing to be said there. And as I was talking about, very neutral-ish in its presentation. It's got a bass shuffle of about 8 dBs, but it starts gliding down and basically flat by 200 hertz. This is the fact why, or the reason why, it kind of sounds a little bit lean with regards to that mid bass, and sometimes it doesn't fulfill 100%. However, having said that, the Luna, which is something that I don't usually do, but the Luna does react very well to a slight little boost in EQing. And if you actually EQ this area of between 70 and 200 hertz, if you EQ it just very slightly, just to give this a little bit more of a thicker bass bump here, it sounds absolutely incredible. It really does. But EQing is one thing, and I like to try and keep my comparisons with the stock sounding as it is. Anyway, really nice. It then has a very gradual pinna gain, peaks at around 2.8k, more than 2.7, 2.8, and then starts dropping off, kind of a harmony-ish type of drop off, a little bit of a peak there, and then nice extension past 10k. So soundstage, that sensation of airiness, it's there. It's there's no lack there. Let's get the audio sense out of the way straight away. This is the audio sense with the 80 ohm impedance adapter, and as you can see, yes, it's got loads of information up top, and yes, you do hear it and you do feel that there's loads of resolution and so on and so forth, but it's very much lacking in this area here between 100 and 1K, especially 100 hertz and 1K, especially because this area here is maybe not sounding as strong as it seems by the graph on the one hand, and also you have very much a sub-bass focused bass presentation, and so you feel that there's a little bit of meat missing here, and this part of the the beginning of, let's say, the pinna gain 1 to 3 kilohertz, it sounds just a little bit not as present as you would think by the graph. So there's a definite V presentation. Okay, so that's that one out of the way. Let's show now the one that I'm going to show you now, and I'm actually just going to change the color to red so it stands out. Okay, this is the, let me balance it out here. This is the PENON turbo, okay, and the PENON turbo does have then that extra amount of energy that I was talking about. Okay, yes, it does have a slightly bigger dip here in the lower part of the mid-range, which is noticeable and does confer it a slight V kind of presentation. But then the mids, the rest of the mids, the upper mids and treble are phenomenal. Nothing to be said there, really nothing to be said. If anything, because of the amount of bass, I would even say that let's say the overly intense presentation in the higher frequencies that sometimes occurs on the Luna can or are definitely mitigated or controlled by that extra bass energy that you have here, which it's a two-way sword. It can in some songs be a little bit overwhelming because it muddies up and doesn't clear up things as nice, but on other songs it actually helps controls things. So the fact that there's a bass switch on the turbo does help towards that. And yes, you can even bring it a little bit further down the bass presentation, very slightly, by the way. But then what that happens is that the bass kind of overpowers the rest of the spectrum. So that's why I prefer the setting that I have. I don't have the turbo switch on because the turbo switch would even further enhance the bass performance. But the turbo is, it's a really good IEM. That's the reality. The fact that you have those switches definitely is one of the reasons why the turbo would make sense, because it makes it very versatile. It can basically do everything very well. And then the other one that I also talked about, no, not this one, where is it now? Don't tell me I took it out. Oh no, there it is. 17. Okay, let me just change the color as well. Let me just make it also red so it can stand out. This is the Duno SA6 MK2. It's got what seems to be the same sort of bass, but when you listen to it, no, it's a thicker sounding bass, true, and fair enough. It doesn't have the same sort of detail here, but the reality is this: when you actually listen to the Duno SA6, the Mark II, and I've got the bass switch on, by the way, and the difference between on and off is just 2 dB, so it's not there, that's the issue. The way that they've struck this balance, okay, I never found the SA6 to be a muddy IEM. I never found the SA6 to be lacking in detail or anything of the sort. No, it's got everything, in my opinion. So I was quite surprised at the time that some people complained about it not being clean or detailed. I never found that to be the issue. And compared here with obviously with the Luna, yes, you do find that the Luna is a little bit more detailed up top, but it's basically more of a function of it not having the same bass performance of the SA6 than having the bass performance. And this is where maybe just maybe ZIIGAAT could have thought about, hey, let's put a bass switch in the Luna. Perhaps this is a consideration they can keep for further improvement on the Luna if they decide to do so, by having maybe a bass switch on the Luna where you could boost the bass a little bit to keep that balance with the rest of the frequency range. You could maybe get the Luna to become even more versatile than what it is, because if you look carefully here at the Duno SA6, you have the 100 Hz point be above the whole mids, upper mids, treble, and it kind of that balance that is struck is really good. It doesn't in any way make it sound muddy or warm sounding, which would be maybe what you think when you look at the Luna, and that same comparison that I like doing, 100 hertz, you think, oh, okay, it's definitely going to be more balanced. And yes, to be fair, it is very balanced. It is very balanced, but you would think that it's not as thin as it actually ends up being with certain songs that need just a little bit more of impact. Okay, so there's always, it's like I said before many times, graphs are one thing and they will give you a really good idea, but not always do they show the whole picture. Okay, so I've showed you the Duno SA6, I've shown you the PENON Turbo, I've shown you the DTE. The last one I'm going to be showing you is the Supernova, which is, yeah, 7th Acoustic Supernova. And as you can see, I mean, they are identical in graphs and in sound, and I really apologize for not being able to have the Supernova. But I would really, really like to hear from somebody out there that does have both IEMs, and to tell me that they don't sound, okay, I'm going to be nice, that they don't sound 90% the same. From what I recall of the Supernova, and it was immediate. I mean, I can recall this as clear as day. The moment I put on the Lunas in my ears, I was immediately, oh, this sounds like the Supernova. And that means, in case you just haven't figured out, it means that the Supernova really made an impact in my listening experiences, because it really did. The Supernova, the SA6 Mark II, the Night Oblivion Butas Tour, the Neon Pro, those four, the PENON Turbo, those 5 IAMs, all BA IAMs, all IAMs that have definitely made an impression. First of all, because I don't have a lot of all BA IAMs, but they really made an impression for various reasons. The PENON Turbo, because of the bass that it has, and it's hard to think, no, this is not a DD here. The Night of Oblivion Butas Tour, because of that incredible detail and bass presence that it has. It's, in my opinion, even a cleaner and better, more detailed sounding IM than the Neon Pro. And the Neon Pro in itself was an absolute beast, because it sounded like the Anole VX at a quarter of the price of the Anole VX. And now with the Supernova as well, the same thing. You had an incredibly balanced, mid-focused IM with just absolutely unreal mid-range performance, and it was being offered at the price which was, competitive. Let's put it that way. Now you have this ZIIGAAT LUNA, which kind of comes in and shakes the foundations of all of these other IMs, because it offers a sound, obviously, along the lines of what the Supernova is, and IMs which are focused towards that type of sound, which is not being excessively bass heavy or anything of the sort. So it's extremely detailed, super detailed. For those that are aficionados of wanting detail and resolution, so this is the IM to go for, because it does everything, and it does it really well. It doesn't do it with any of the aggressiveness associated with BAs and so on and so forth. At least in my ears, I never at any point found the treble or the upper mid-range to be excessive to the point of being harsh or what. No, it's powerful, it's intense. It's like the Butas Tour from Night Oblivion. It's powerful, it's intense, but it's been well done. It's been well executed. And it does all of this, and it offers all of this at under $500, at way below $500, $379, offering the performance of IMs twice the price. That's top marks in my books, at least. Okay, guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask me. You take care now. Bye bye.